Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome to another Total War Warhammer guide. Today we are looking at the cavalry and the chariots of the Dark Elf army. It makes up a big part of this army, gives it a bit more manoeuvrability, a bit more speed. Very much depends on how you play as to how many of these units you use. So we're going to look at the Dark Riders and the ones with shields, the Cold One Riders, and then also the Missile Cavalry, which is the Dark Riders with repeater crossbow, and the amazing looking Cold One Chariots. I'll just show you these Cold One Chariots because they are amazing. Although there's the big wheel on the back. It's an interesting way of designing a chariot, but you know, whatever floats your boat. Again, as always, amazing models. Right, let's have a look at the standard, cheaper end. These are the ones you'll first get in the campaign, which is your Dark Riders. So they are come in units of 60. They're very fast, as you see, 92 speed, and they have Vanguard deployment, which is always really nice. They're pretty low armoured. Their leadership isn't great for a Dark Elf. They don't even do that much damage, but they do have a very good charge bonus. We are going to live to see the dawn. Chill out, mate. So they're your sort of standard light cavalry. You want to get... Obviously, you don't want them bogged down in combat. You just want to get in, get out. Obviously, with the Vanguard deployment, that makes them really versatile. You don't want to be approaching the front line, but you let the armies pass by. And you basically... I use Dark Riders to mop up ranged infantry, artillery, and then if that's all done or there's none of those, then I will sweep around the back and go into the flanks and of the enemy just to break them. You never want... This pretty much goes for most cavalry. You never want to get them bogged down in combat for too long. You want to charge, get out. Charge, even if they're not broken and you're taking a few losses getting out, it's better to get out and then come back in for the charge. That's where they do most damage. Obviously, they have a shield variant, which is obviously better for shooty armies like High Elves, the dirty High Elves and stuff like that. They've got a bit more defense and they've got that shield from the enemy missile fire. And then we go up to the sort of beefier end of the scale. We have the Cold One Knights. Just like the Lizardmen Cold Ones. They look very cool. They almost look a bit big for their mounts, but I suppose it's a dinosaur. It can probably be alright with that. So these are much heavier. These are your heavy cavalry options. They're armoured and shielded, armour piercing. They're anti-large. They do suffer from primal instincts. So when under pressure, the primal instincts of these natural predators takes over. They may then go on a rampage against nearby enemy units, attacking the closest one, ignoring any orders. So of course, especially if cavalry, you don't generally want to have that sort of thing where you're giving them no orders. But the fact they are so heavily armoured, they can stay in combat for much longer. And at the end of the day, they're not just attacking anything, they're still going after the enemy. So once you get them into combat, it's not such a big a deal. So they have 90 armour, good leadership, still good speed, 66 speed. They have weapon strength of 42, which is a massive 30 armour piercing damage and bonus against large. So tactics-wise for these guys, you can do the similar things, artillery and range fire, but you're better off using the Dark Riders for that. They're a lot cheaper, they're quicker, they still do the job. With these guys, you want to be sending them into the heavily armoured, the other cavalry. You know, when an enemy cavalry hits your unit, you then countercharge with the Cold One Knights. Is like a perfect situation. They've got a very good charge bonus of 56. Ideally, again, you want to be charging these like you use other cavalry. Charge, get away, charge, get away. It's going to be harder to do, obviously, with the primal instincts. And also, they can stay in combat for a lot longer because of their heavily armoured nature. The second set we've gone are the Dread Knights. So these are the even more upgraded version of the Cold One Knights. We'll compare the two so we can get a better idea. They both come in smaller units of 48. So these guys have 120 armour, which is just bonkers, and they're shielded. They have a melee attack plus 14, melee defense plus 10, weapon strength plus 6. Quite a lot different charge bonus. So these guys, even more so, are the ones you can leave in combat. They do suffer from the primal instincts again, but they do a shit ton of damage. And because they don't rely on a lot of their damage coming from the charge, although it's still good, you can actually leave these guys in combat a bit more. They've got so much armour, they've got so much more survivability, so they can. But like any cavalry, I still don't use them in my front line. I want my front line to be infantry, always infantry, because they move pretty much at the same speed. You don't need that manoeuvrability of the cavalry. I'm going to be sending my cavalry in pretty much always as a counter charge or to basically counter what the enemy's doing. If they go front on, you send your units, and then they send a big contingent round to the flank, your cavalry has much more manoeuvrability and speed, so they can get round to counter that. But these guys absolutely shred faces for fun. Amazing unit. They're so much fun to use, because even with the primal instincts, they're just killing people for fun. So they're your main melee units. We do have a couple of options within the ranged cavalry. Fighting ranged cavalry, especially if you don't have any, is one of the most annoying things in Total War Warhammer, right? You'll all know this. It's so irritating. Your infantry just chugging along slowly while they get picked off by these Dark Riders with their repeater crossbows. They've got ridiculous speed, so although they can't fire on the move, they can basically just get further enough away, shoot you, turn around, run away a bit, shoot you, and just endlessly. Thankfully, they've only got 16 shots, which is the only thing that helps us especially as me as a Skaven player. That's the only thing that really helps. They've got, they're pretty, again, like Dark Riders. They're very low armoured. They don't do that much damage in combat. Their charge bonus is only 20. It's kind of, obviously you use these to harass the enemy. I'm going to deploy them really, depending on how much range stuff the enemy has, I'm going to vanguard deploy them right near the enemy line and just harass them the entire way in. And by the time they've probably got into combat, these guys are going to be out of arrows. So basically what I do then use them for is what I call a break unit, where combats, you just need another flank charge or a rear charge just to break a unit. They're not going to do a massive amount of damage. They're going to get killed relatively easy, but if it's the last thing you need to do just to break a unit, these are perfect for it. So they do have multiple uses. And finally, we have the amazing Cold One Chariots. I don't care if these were utter shit in the game. I take these guys because they look amazing. So, they come in units of 4. He loves blood on the snow, apparently, so that's good. I'm really happy for him. Lucky there's so much snow. So they're armoured, armour-piercing, and anti-infantry. They've got primal instincts, obviously, because of the cold one. 6,200 hit points. Amazing armour. Okay leadership. Still good speed. They have the weapon strength of 44. Lots of armour, tons of armour-piercing, and a massive... you don't normally see this amount of damage versus infantry. Plus 22. We've got almost twice as much as their normal weapon damage, which is amazing. They've got a very good charge bonus of 60. They've got 48 shots. So they are ranged. They've got a couple of guys shooting. Is it just one dude? Their missile damage is 102, which is very, very good. Number of projectiles 2. 24 armour piercing. So... these guys are the best unit for counter-charging. So when your two big front lines meet, you just send these into the rear or the flank, and they will wreck faces. And the good thing is, they're anti-infantry, but they also have the armour-piercing benefit. So you can send them against pretty much any infantry. You don't have to worry that they're heavily armoured, or they're just clan rats or slaves or something, or they're temple guard. They can still do a ton of damage. They're so really useful. You can send them after artillery and ranged units and all that sort of good stuff, but like I said, use Dark Riders for that. That's a lot easier. These guys are for counter-charging. So there we go, my friends. That is the guide for the fun stuff, the cavalry and the chariots of the Dark Elf army. Obviously, the next video is going to be the last, and we're looking at the fun stuff like the Harpies, War Hydra, and Black Dragon. So please go check out that video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go check out the place. Enjoy yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.